So I've started weaving my Prairie Bloom towels. I'm actually doing each of both patterns. At the beginning, I have to say I had a really hard time with the first towel that I made, and I took some pictures of it. It was a plain weave towel, so I figured that would be the easiest one to start with. So it turns out that so far the first two patterns that I've used basically have the borders are the same, and the borders, even though they're short, I find them really difficult to do. There's a lot of changes in the colors in those borders, and so I have a really hard time because you need to make sure that you're carrying up the threads as you're going along, so you don't have these big kind of jumps of thread on the sides in your salvages there. I also have a fanny loom. So a fanny loom, basically it's a counterbalanced loom, and so generally if you've got an uneven number of harnesses on the treadles, the shed becomes ridiculously small instead of a normal size shed, because a fanny loom usually has a nice large shed. So I've actually, when it's an uneven shed, like you're only pulling down one harness, for example, I've actually had to use a very narrow shuttle. So I usually use the nice Leclerc shuttles, which I really enjoy, but they are somewhat thicker. So when I'm using, this one here is by Shacked. Okay, so basically if I put it alongside the Leclerc, it is somewhat thinner. Okay, it's definitely narrower. Okay, compared, let me see here, compared to the Leclerc, it's definitely narrower and easier to get through the unbalanced sheds that I have that are so narrow. Okay, so I would definitely, if you have a fanny loom and you're doing these, I would have definitely a narrower shuttle for those particular towels. So let me turn it around. I'm going to show you generally what you're looking at for the borders and what the plain weave towel did. Once I have them all off the loom and stuff, you'll have a better look at them at that point. But for the Prairie Bloom towels, let's take a quick look at the plain weave version, okay? Okay, so this is the border right here. Okay, now I'm not using the colors that were in the pattern here, basically. I've got my plum, I've got stone and gris foncé. I also have my jeans. These are colors from Maurice Broussard, basically. Okay, so if you look at the corner here, and you can see here that I've basically got a whole bunch of threads. What I've done is that as I've changed colors, I've woven it back in this first kind of cream colored section, and then I'll cut them off after it's washed, so that they're all put in. So you are seeing like double lines whenever I'm changing colors. I'm hoping that it's not too noticeable once everything's washed up, but if you guys have a different way of doing a color change, because as I said, there's multiple color changes, as you can see, back and forth here, and I would love to know how you do that. So as you can see on the side, there are some, despite trying to bring certain colors along with me, you can see that there is some jumping that's involved here. And again, if there's some way of avoiding that, I don't know how, because you don't want to also make your color changes all on one side, because it makes it a lot thicker on one side. So I've tried to actually reverse on the other side. So if we go to this side here, I do have some color changes on this side here as well, to try and kind of lighten things up a little bit. Okay, now with the plain weave towel, you've got basically this border. So what happens with the plain weave towel is that you start off, let's see if I can make this, nope, wrong way. So you start off, right, this here basically is just a border from the last towel here. So you've got 1.5 inches of plain weave, then it starts off with another plain weave of 18 kind of rows, then you start this border here. So if it was the plain weave towels, I would have 24 inches of plain weave like after this, and then I would have the same border in reverse on the other side. Okay, and so this one here is the huck towels. So again, the same start. Okay, you've got your 1.5 inches of plain weave. You've got your 18 rows of like plain weave again, and then you have the same actual pattern here. The only difference, obviously, is that now I'm going to have huck. And so in the picture that I'm showing you off to the side here, I've done the huck stitches, and I didn't know that. I've never done huck, so I wasn't sure it was correct. So I did definitely ask. Here, let me turn it over here. Give me a sec. Okay, so instead of turning it around here, so as I said, like I've got your plain weave there, and you know I always kind of rewrite everything so I can use it. This is again from Handwoven, the Prairie Bloom towels, and so you can see all the color changes back and forth. Okay, and then you've got like the stone and the gris foncé kind of here, and I like to highlight my stuff, and I had to do it obviously go through it twice to make sure because I'm doing 2 towels. Okay, so for the plain weave, once I got past that. You're doing 24 inches of the 24 inches of the repeat, and then of course you're doing the border on the other side. For the Huck towels, give me 1 second here. Okay, so for the natural Huck towels, same, the start is basically exactly the same, but now of course for doing the Huck section, okay, the Huck pattern basically, I've had to change my I'm doing the treadle. So treadle 4, which was part of plain weave, is a beautiful shed, but for me, number 1 and number 2 are really tiny sheds. The 3 and 4 are normal sheds. So because of that, that whole section there, I basically had to use the thinner shuttle there. Okay, and so basically, and then you get to the other end here, and basically you've got the opposite there. Okay, so I've done a little bit of the Huck, as you can see. I'm not sure if you can see close up there. So it's it's got a kind of a pattern to it. Now I found it quite holey, to be perfectly honest, compared to what I usually have for towels. People have mentioned that it will tighten up once it is washed. So, and it's supposed to be magical. So I'll take a look when that happens. If you actually, let me go outwards here. Hold on. Let's see here. So when I go out and I do the actual shed, I put in floating selvages for this one because I wasn't sure if it needed it or not. I did put it. I do find that, as I said, the shed for number 1 and number hold on a sec here. Let me just reverse this. Okay, there we go. I found that the shed for number 1 and 2, which were the really tiny sheds, if I had the floating selvage, it was very difficult to actually see the floating selvage. I had to pick it out in order to put my the shuttle through. Obviously, 4 and 3, there was no problem seeing the floating selvages on that side. So just keep that in mind if you've got a counterbalance loom there. But I do like both of them so far, and I will take another video once I start doing the next towels, which are called the blue, the blue spot towels, I believe it is. Yeah, the blue spot towels. Okay, so the beginning will most likely be the same, just like the other towels, except obviously in the middle section you're going to be using a combination of what I'm using, the natural versus the jeans to offset to make the blue spots. So we'll see what that looks like.